はい、皆さん、こんにちは。僕の名前はPraisedscooter。このビデオは... We're not doing that bit again. We did it last year. It was stupid then, and it's stupid now. We already did this bit for the anniversary. We're not doing it a second time.
You're both absolutely ridiculous. These are bits
Come on, man.
done
Why are you hitting?
intro.
Don't
Don't
even
you
me.
jab.
Chicos, ¿qué hacen ahí?
None of this concerns you.
Okay. Cabrones grandes.
The hell was that about?
Hello everyone, Praisedscooter here, and it is that time of year once again where I tell you what are my favorite games from the year in question. The year 2022 for me was a year spent reconfiguring my life. I started working a third shift job this year, which really threw my world for a loop, to the point where I more or less stopped live streaming altogether. But the channel went over 3,000 subscribers this year. But you're not here for my sob story, you're here to listen to some guy talk about an arbitrary list of games that should totally be taken as law as the best games that came out this year. A disclaimer, if I have not played a game, it won't appear on this list. So Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, and a handful of other games that are in high contention for other people's games of the year may not make it onto this list. With all that said, let's hop into my list of my top 10 games from 2022. Before the actual top 10 list, let's look at a handful of games that I want to draw some attention to. These honorable mentions are either games that I did not have enough time invested in to consider it for the actual top 10 list, or are games that are released in previous years that I've only just now had the chance to play this year. First entry on this list being Mega Man X Dive, or Mega Man Cross Dive. Mega Man X Dive is probably the best encapsulation of a Mega Man X game I've seen in recent years. Yes, it is a gacha game, but everything about the movement, the weapons, music, enemies, just everything screams that this would be a fantastic anniversary game for the Mega Man X series. There's even some love for all the various forms that Mega Man has taken throughout his life. While the focus is on the X series, classic Mega Man, Volnut, EXE, and even Star Force Mega Man elements make a surprise appearance in this game. Another honorable mention is Bullets Per Minute, a hardcore roguelike shooter where everything is to the beat of the music. And we're talking some heavy-hitting music too, like something from your favorite hard rock album. Every new run may have similar music, but every loadout has you move to the beat in a different way. Doubly so if it's a weapon different from what your default loadout is. Next up is Curse Crackers. This game may look very basic on the surface, but this platforming game has a lot of technique hiding below 3 buttons. A preliminary run of the stage to understand its layout, a no-hit challenge, and a speedrun challenge. And that's per stage, not just one challenge for a level randomly selected. So all of you completionists out there may be playing this game 3 or 4 times over. Plus, I really do like the aesthetics of this game, having the appearance of a Game Boy Color game. Yet another honorable mention on the list goes to Peglin. Now, have you ever thought that Peggle could be an RPG? Well, wonder no more, because that's a possibility. Though this is a roguelike system, you can adjust Peggle to play how you like. Granted, there's not much to improve upon arcade perfection, but Peglin does just that without detracting from the source material. The following honorable mention needs no explanation. All you need to know is Ultra Kill. Flashy and brutal doesn't begin to describe this game, but man is there a metric ton of sensory overload. And last honorable mention goes to Tunic, a game where you're literally jumped into the world and given no instructions, outside of the main collectible, which is the game's instruction manual. So while you're adventuring throughout the world, you'll play the game most effectively if you go out of your way to find the optional content. And with all of that out of the way, let's move on to the actual top 10 games. Number 10. My number 10 pick is Kirby's Dream Buffet. Kirby's Dream Buffet is a super fast-paced party game that mostly boils down to how well you can control a wrecking ball. The game itself is broken down into 2 major sections, the racing mode and the battle mode. The racing mode is a balancing act between trying to get to the end of the course to get the biggest berry reward possible and going on non-optimal routes to get even more berries. A risk-reward system. Even with this simple concept in place, the courses are unique in many ways so you do not get bored of this simple balancing act. Whether that be racing across simple rotating platforms or climbing stacks of syrup-soaked pancakes. The battle mode is quite a bit more frantic though. Confined to a very small arena, you push your way to get more berries. The first of these two battles is usually a rather calm match with lower stakes, serving as a way to study your opponent's movements. The second of these is all chaos, where there's equalizers, power-ups, and stealing on a grand scale. Speaking of such, the power-ups. Though they are more confectionery themed to fit in with this gourmet race part 2, they level the playing field in both play modes. Something as simple as the new jelly power-up can be used to slip through the cookie gates that normally forces players to join together at a choke point to make a new starting line of sorts. Or used in the battle mode to become impervious for a short amount of time. In the end though, it's all good fun, and this is emphasized by the end of match bonus system. There are numerous hidden objectives you can compete for, and the game will pick a couple of these to give additional berries to players with. These can be something as obvious as defeated the most amount of normal enemies, or something as obscure as collecting the most blueberries scattered randomly among all the other raspberries, strawberries, and blackberries. But when you're not participating in a berry bash, the game has a wonderful vault full of Kirby nostalgia in both art and music forms. This game is a wonderful little package of multiplayer chaos with a cute little pink puffball at the helm. Number 9. My 9th pick from this year goes to Turbo Golf Racing. Like most people, I really like Rocket League. Taking a sport that not a lot of folks pay attention to and making it about cars that not only can jump, but fly through the air. Now take the same concept, but put it to golf, a sport that even more people sleep on. And you now have my undivided attention. Turbo Golf Racing has all the high-flying antics you come to expect from other games that have cars doing human sports and then some. A dedicated glide button for near unlimited flight, even having wind tunnels for actual unlimited flight, great level design to tempt you to jump all around, don't, and it's very pretty to boot. The sport-focused side of golf is translated very well to a racing game format. The ultimate end goal is still to get your ball into the cup at the end of the course, but instead of the fewest strokes or hits possible, it is to do it in the least amount of time possible. And this is emphasized by some of the technical things you can do within the game. You can put a little bit of curve on your shots if you're feeling like you can bend it like Beckham around the various turns in the course. Though you gotta be careful because you can launch your ball into a crater. Taking a couple pages out of Mario Kart, there are some hidden shortcuts that you can take to cut straight across the intended course to get a faster time. Also like Mario Kart, if you play online, you can throw items around to delay your opponents. I mean, you can't really hit their ball, but who says you have to hit the ball? There is a little bit of extra customization you can do to your car. And I don't mean the cosmetics. You can apply some modifiers, both positive and negative, to change how you play. Do you want an extra hit without actually touching the ball? You can equip a shockwave. Or, if you drive like you're about to be picked up by an officer for reckless driving, you can equip a larger ball modifier. No, that's definitely not me. It's definitely not because I have a crippling addiction to trying to make curve shots all over the course. No, not me in the slightest. Help me. Much like the Rocket League that came before it, Turbo Golf Racing is a very unique spin on a very well-established sports game. Number 8. Splatoon 3, my number 8 pick from 2022, is a continuation of the series that spawned from the Wii U. A series where everything is your enemy. The opposing players, the walls, the floor, everything. This iteration of the series has an emphasis on movement, which is something I focus on in my own playstyle. But they made it more flashy with the addition of the squid roll and wall surge, which has led to a few montage-worthy moments, but also easier to move about overall without mashing buttons like you're going for any percent speedrun of a battle pass. The multiplayer is mostly the same from the last game in most aspects outside of the secondary and special weapons, which the new kits and abilities is all it takes to make the multiplayer feel fresh. Some of the new specials are top-notch additions, and then there's the Killer Whale 5.1. Don't worry, I too use trash. The newest additions to the game are the story mode that feels like a best of all the story modes of the past. A semi-open world adventure that follows the stage structuring of the Octo expansion that reveals that the Horde Rush mode of the game was actually a trick to have unwitting players aid in their own destruction. This story mode is also a way to introduce us to the very bandit-like trio of Deep Cut, which upon first appearance is a little hard to warm up to, but when you finish the story, they are actually oddly noble and loving creatures, much like the other sets of idols we've had in the past. As is such, and a segue to such, that Horde mode returns with more maps, special enemies, and even a big bad boss that requires the utmost cooperation and timing to even hope to defeat it. And the latest new addition is the strangest one in a card game. Somehow all this high-octane shooter action has been translated down to a tactics-based card game. 15 cards to deck and 11 turns to make it a fast-paced game, thankfully. Splatoon 3 is more of what folks love in the series while making minor additions.
Number 7.
Pokemon. A series that, for the most part, has been slowly trending downhill for fans since the end of the Nintendo DS's lifespan. I mean, that's most fans. I've been appreciating the changes and upgrades to the series with every iteration recently. And in spite of any shortcomings that have happened, this does include those trees that everyone fixated on a few years ago. And with Pokemon Scarlet, I still love this game series. The game has fully embraced the open world aspect a lot of RPGs have embraced as of late, and to a lesser extent the anime series having infinite exploration as a focal point of a lot of Ash's journey. And this open world aspect is there in spades, even more so than previous Pokemon games have even allowed. This game still has the box standard of Pokemon games of fight all 8 gyms and become champion. Well, a champion. Champion is more of a title given to all of those that complete the gym challenge, as your rival is a battle-hungry trainer who is currently a champion, but she starts her journey all over again because she sees something special in you. Within the game though, there are 2 additional sets of goals you can set out for and you are required to do in order to finish the bulk of the main game. The evil team of this game, Team Star, are a series of battles meant to emphasize a new feature of this game called the Let's Go mode. This new battle style system lets you automatically battle Pokemon so you can adventure as you wish while still getting the experience you need. Trainer battles are not a long gone and forgotten thing, as Pokemon still need a proper battle with a trainer to evolve afterwards. And the other main goal, well, there's always some way to bar off a trainer's path to make sure they can't go rushing off wherever they want to. That sort of thing is still there, because you can still go wherever you wish, but the final goal gets you tools that let you truly go everywhere. The Path of Titans, battling large, overbearing Pokemon to get access to fabled Herba Mystica. Wait. Hold on. Herba Mystica. Barring off a trainer's path. Herba Mystica. Oh my Arceus. That shocking revelation aside, we also have a subplot to the path not only to allow us to have more movement options on the overworld, but also this helps out Arven. Speaking of Arven though, the character roster in this game is probably the most human feeling a cast has felt like in a Pokemon game. They all have a personality, lives outside of Pokemon battles, and even more major characters have flaws that show that they also have room to grow. Which is why Arven is my favorite character in this game. But folks have fallen in love with a select few others. And for those who still want to dig deeper into the world, lore, and even dig into some of the game's mechanics that are normally just hidden values you cannot see, there's the school, where you can learn all of the aforementioned information and bond with the teachers who are also super personable. This Pokemon game has become my favorite mainline game, a title that I gave to Platinum for so many years, even with all of the glitches and performance issues inside the game.
Number 6. In a time not long ago, the internet was a place where people played video games and talked to people using their real self and face. But everything changed when the anime attacked.
My number 6 pick from this year feeds into my recent brain rot addiction, with Holocure, a game that feeds into another recent trend of arcade bullet hell roguelikes. This fan game is a fun time killer that's a chill play session. No run is the same, but the enemies that assault you do come at the same times during your runs. This particular variation of the genre features the VTubers from Cover Corporation, or Hololive, with varying skills that make them all very unique to play, and have a different optimal build to make it to the end of a level, or as far as possible in an endless run. Even with that, you unlock more levels that offer higher multipliers to the in-game currency and more difficult arenas. The in-game currency can be used to gamble on a gacha system to get more playable characters, or use duplicate characters to increase the base stats of your already existing characters. You can also use this currency to buy permanent stat increases that apply to all characters. This fan game is also updated occasionally with more playable characters and items that reference the Hololive culture and memes. And it was also recently updated to allow for controller functionality. With all this said, I'm actually going to go back and play more of this now and give in to my brain rot addiction. Sananada. Number 5. Back in 2017, an unlikely combination came to us. A large majority of us had assumed these two major IPs clashing would leave an awful impression on the Switch's launch year. Anyway, the sequel to one of my favorite Switch launch titles is my number 5 pick for 2022. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope takes what the first game brought us, turned a whole lot of that into a whole new playstyle, but it still feels like mostly the same game with a lot of quality of life improvements. It also somehow feels more Mario in style and execution over the first game by having a lot more staple Mario enemies in the mix. None of them shoot guns or anything, outside of the player-controlled characters, but their existence means fun gimmick ideas to use the not gun portions of your combat arsenal to enhance your gun strikes. There's also enemies now that can flat out shut down a character's strengths and make you try out different team compositions. And unlike the first game, some characters get perks way down the line that will take them from your least used unit to your most used unit. In this game, Rabbid Luigi went from my benchwarmer to my room clearing one-tapper in a matter of about 30 hours of gameplay. Also, I'm going to need you to sit down for this one. Are you sitting? You aren't forced to use Mario in this game. In fact, if you really want to go crazy, you can use an all Rabbids team. Unlike the first game, you can mix and match your character roster however you feel for any battle. The forced weapon upgrade system is now gone, as there is now an experience level up system that removes the need for buying new guns to get a better secondary effect or more damage. All secondary effects are now tied to sparks or a character's skill tree, and you just get a flat damage increase when you do level up. The additional weapons are still there, but they're more cosmetic flair, really just useless outside of proving to others that you'd like to 100% this game. The namesake creatures, the Sparks, are ways to slightly tweak your already set-in-stone characters into something that more suit your own playstyle. From making your frontline bruiser to a pseudo-support character, your tank into an AoE bomber, or your most hated character into a one-tapper. Yeah, the Sparks is why I like Rabbid Luigi. Because using the start of a round Tacticam, I can scope out what element an enemy is weak to and casually do 90 to 100% of the entire enemy opposition's health from the word go. Much like the first game though, it oozes charm and looks great. You just have to get past the fact that the Rabbids can talk now. Number 4.
Seek out all Pokemon.
Great. So the same tired shtick to get me to buy a game twice.
There's no version exclusives.
Go on. Though I have stated that Scarlet and Violet are my favorite mainline Pokemon games, my favorite Pokemon game and my number 4 entry from 2022 goes to Pokemon Legends Arceus. This game takes us back to a time when Pokemon were feared creatures, where utmost safety was taken securing the beasts rather than walking up to them and dumbly going, "Friend?" Everyone is terrified of Pokemon in this past version of Sinnoh, and it's up to you, the child who just got a one-way time travel ticket from your local neighborhood truck-coon, to show the people of this land that Pokemon can be trusted. This game takes the Pokemon formula and reintroduces it in a new bundle. The Pokemon on display have a level of personality now, letting their true colors of bravery or cowardice fly. And it's up to you to exploit some of those colors to catch them. Oh, silly me. Did I forget to mention battling a wild Pokemon is optional? Because it is. And that's why I love this game so much. In my personal playthrough, I think I only battled a dozen Pokemon, maybe 2 dozen. outside of any required battles involving trainers or story-related Pokemon. If you use stealth tactics like cover, distractions, and other tools, you can capture Pokemon without battling them. Some are much harder to achieve this goal than others, with some Pokemon having omnipresent sight, it feels like. But you are still very much in danger, which is a very welcome element to this game series. Should you get spotted by the wrong Pokemon at the wrong time, they will rush you down and remind you of your immortality faster than you can say, "Arceus, forgive me for my sins." And that should make you equally more terrified because Pokemon care not for money, but will happily fling the items in your bag across the Hisui region should they best you in combat. The action in this game is also extended into the boss fights with certain Pokemon as well. A Pokemon game where you have to take some form of dodging and breaking down of defenses before fighting them is such an amazing idea. Granted, most of the time this boils down to a Mega Man boss pattern of dodge until they leave themselves unbearably open. But you still have a choice in this scenario to use their weakened state to have a traditional Pokemon battle, or to keep pelting them with bags of sand until they fall. And status conditions in this game are now much more action oriented instead, like sleep and freeze now being put on the same playing field as paralysis and burn respectively. Also, to keep the game more action oriented is the ability to choose between a standard attack style, a strong attack style, which is, well, stronger, but you forego some of your turns in battle, or a quick style, which is weaker, but you will get another turn in battle much more quickly. Another thing I love so much, being an avid fan of the Sinnoh region, is that the ancient stories you spend the entirety of the DS games learning about are things you actively play out in this game. You are the one that causes Spear Pillar to shatter. You are the ancient entity that forged the first set of red chains to tame the god of space or time. You are the one who took the plates of Arceus sent down to the land and scattered them about. If Scarlet and Violet are what's supposed to be bringing in the new players, then I certainly hope Legends Arceus is what's meant to bring in longtime fans or older players of the Pokemon series.
Number 3.
The 90s called, and they want you to remember that the Turtles are totally radical. My number 3 game from 2022 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, a game that is in all intents and purposes a direct sequel to one of the top 10 Super Nintendo or arcade games of all time. Shredder's Revenge takes all the best parts of the 90s Turtles mythos and ramps it up to the next level. Every corner of the series is explored and brought to light. Even someone who grew up in this time period of Turtles media, I wasn't aware that there was a frog counterpart to the Turtles. The folks over at Tribute Games and .mu worked very carefully to keep the spirit of the cartoon and the Super Nintendo game intact, while expanding upon it to a huge degree. Like how they got a majority of the original voice cast from the 90s cartoon to lend their voices to this game, and how this is still a mostly 2-button beat 'em up. But now there's some added dodge rolling, diving attacks, and a super meter for special attacks, and even a combo system that gives each playable character a unique combo to them. To that point, I want to specifically call out that I said playable character, and not just Turtles. Because Master Splinter, April O'Neil, and even Casey Jones get in on the action this time around in a massive 6-player slugfest, both for offline and online play. And every character has a very clearly stated stat spread to show how you'll want to play them. Like playing as Raph, you want to get right in the enemy's face, whereas Donnie may want to hang back a little bit. Or my personal favorite, Mikey, who just kind of goes all over the screen, hitting as many enemies as possible at once. The sprite work of this game is absolutely phenomenal, making it feel like an episode of the cartoon. And that music! There's also a large selection of tracks that were made with the time period on display. Heck, even one of the tracks features members of the Wu-Tang Clan, a group who haven't been heard of since that time period. Shredder's Revenge is a wonderful love letter to those who grew up with the Turtles, but is also expertly polished enough that it can stand on its own as a super fun beat 'em up.
Number 2.
Some characters have had a very rough transition to the third dimension. Thankfully, Kirby is not one of those characters. Kirby and the Forgotten Land gets my silver medal of 2022. Kirby's first fully 3D adventure still has a lot of the charm as the other games before it. A simple to understand, almost impossible to master game. Though it's interesting seeing all of Kirby's 2D techniques move to a 3-dimensional space. Yet they all feel the same as their 2D counterparts, like nothing really changed. Kirby's latest adventure takes him to a new dimension, in more ways than one. An animalistic kingdom where Waddle Dees are a highly sought after resource, scary animals roam the lands, and even close rivals are turned to bitter enemies. A lot of the fun in this game to me boils down to those bonus objectives you complete to get 100%, and trying to predict what the game asks of you to get those additional objectives completed. Most of them are pretty obvious or tell you what they are right away while you play, but for the few you miss, you have to sit there scratching your head going, wait, where could that even remotely be? Only to see that you missed it by turning right when you should have turned left. Another cool thing is the ability to boost your copy abilities. For me, Fire had the most shocking upgrade and usefulness, but even some copy abilities like Sleep that are normally fairly useless got upgraded to feel almost necessary to take on some of the game's more difficult challenges. Kirby as a series though is about simplicity even when everything around him is becoming more and more complicated. And Forgotten Land hammered that point home. Before moving on to the actual top game from this year, let's do a quick recap to see if you can figure out where I'm going to go with this list. At number 10, it's Kirby's Dream Buffet. At number 9, it's Turbo Golf Racing. Number 8, Splatoon 3. Number 7, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Number 6, Hollow Cure. Number 5, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Number 4, Pokemon Legends Arceus. Number 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. And number 2, Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Number 1!
Look, hey, listen, buddy. It's been a real rough couple of years for you, dude. You've been trying really hard to appeal to some people who don't even know who you are or what you're about. Take some time away. Think about how you want to go about this. Remind people what you're all about. Yeah, that's the ticket. Slow down a little bit. Take some time. Think on that a little bit. I always got your back, bud.
Coming! Oh, hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you for a while. You've been kind of quiet. What's that? Is this what you've been working on? Well, hey, don't keep me waiting. Let's see what all that soul searching did for you, man.
My favorite game of 2022 is Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers, first and foremost, is a game that has set out to do what I've always dreamed of since I was a young lad. Being able to just go fast at almost any location, just like how they show Sonic doing in cutscenes. There's many a time where I've done something in this game, stopped, and gone, a decade ago, I would have only been able to witness these moves. And now here I am, actively playing them. And Sonic in an open world just works because of that mentality. He's free like the wind, and restricting his movement like he's been forced to for over a decade does not suit him. And finally, he is free to do as he wishes, when and wherever that might be. If you see something of interest, you can just go there. Granted, you do have to think a little bit of how to get there first. And even as such, there is no defined path how you're supposed to get there. I've definitely gone on many an expedition to a specific point and upon arrival looked back and seen how I was intended to get to that collectible. And it just kind of makes me happy to know that I can set my own rules for traversal. And this is just one form of gameplay in the game, even though it is the biggest. Sonic is no slouch in the realm of fighting. And even though it's a little rough when you get started with the game, you eventually get enough moves that Sonic does what he's good at, using his speed to overwhelm the enemy in a flashy display of punches, kicks, and spin attacks that would have some smoking sexy styling dudes holding their heads in bewilderment. For those that think everything is an easy cakewalk from the word go, it's not. Yes, you do have all of your abilities as you start your adventure, even the lightspeed dash and drop dash, but you're not at your best. Those collectibles I alluded to earlier help make Sonic stronger in combat. Even though you can take out most enemies, it will take you a lot of time without a boost. And you can make Sonic even faster, which is weird to say, and even help him in a climactic fight, which I'll talk more about later. Now, for those of you that have missed the more stage-based gameplay, that's still in here as well in the cyberspace areas. And they're even structured in such a way to incentivize you to replay them multiple times to get a perfect clear, much like you would back in the Genesis era of Sonic. Red rings, rings collected, S rank times are just a few among all of the objectives you can complete to get more vault keys. What are these vault keys used for, you might ask? Why, the Chaos Emeralds. Yes, Chaos Emeralds are still part of the main game, and not a bonus for the hardcore players that are super good at the game. But the reward for playing as Super Sonic is actually very rewarding, and it also isn't the final step. Your climactic finale for a portion of the world is a fight as Super Sonic, and when that's done, you get it bopped out of you and you go back to the gameplay cycle that started the journey. What Sonic has done well, even in his darkest times, has been his soundtrack or his music selection. And though this is a little different than from what we're used to, that is no exception here. The soundtrack is pure bliss no matter where you go, whether it be the overworld, the cyberstage levels, or the final conflict of a zone. It's all banger tracks back to back. Sonic Frontiers' story starting out is very bland on the surface. But the more you do and meet with your friends on your journey, the more personal the story becomes and the more personable the characters become. This is a story more aimed at longtime Sonic fans to have moments that pull at your heartstrings for these longtime characters, and even let us see sides from them that normally don't get to come out due to subpar story beats.
You hanging in there, Amy? Is your condition, I don't know, uncomfortable?
It's certainly unsettling, but it makes a big difference being able to at least talk to you. Before you freed me, I couldn't see or hear anything clearly. It was like looking into a kaleidoscope that was always shifting. I couldn't tell if I was coming, going, or moving at all. I'd have gone crazy if you hadn't gotten me out.
Yeah, you're tough. I know you'd have hung in there. Still, I'm glad I could get you out. And I'm not gonna stop until you're back to normal.
Oh, hey, Sonic. You come here to fish too?
Big? What are you doing here? How did you get here? What even is here?
I don't know. I was looking for fishing spots and wound up here.
Care to explain how saving my friends is a bad thing?
You are an enemy combatant. I will not share data with you.
What is wrong with you? Sonic would never endanger anyone. He's even going to help this Coco reunite with their one true love.
Love. An emotional status too vague and varied in its definition. You are both too ignorant to be helped.
What was that girl?
Aside from being a pain, no clue.
Keep tabs on the hedgehog. I want constant updates.
Yes, sir.
And keep looking for a way to get me out of here!
I am evaluating all safe options.
Keep up the good work, Sage.
Thank you, Doctor.
I have no idea what your deal is, but if we could just talk...
No discourse, no bartering, only elimination.
Whoa! Time out!
Time out? She attacked you!
Yeah, it's kind of her thing, but she's trying to protect something, or someone. I'm willing to help, but first I need to know what's going on.
No, you don't know what you're talking about.
You're too trusting, Sonic.
No, I'm not. Trust me.
The only real negative I can speak of on this game is in the challenge zones that are strictly two-dimensional. They seem to have some broken physics. Sonic is incredibly sluggish, even at full speed. Even then, that's only like 7% of the overall game, if it even is that much at all. Sonic Frontiers is everything I want and have wanted from a Sonic game. and is my favorite game from this year. It's amazing what some time to collect yourself can really do for you. And that will do it for my top 10 games from 2022. Did my list line up with yours at all? Was it vastly different? Why don't you go ahead and slide down to the comments down there, let me know. A minor thing I'm trying out is games I'm currently excited for in the coming year of 2023. The main two on my radar right now, at least as of the time of putting this video together, is an indie game called Pizza Tower, which is very much Wario Land in spirit, and Armored Core 6, which I did not even know was this game series until about 2 weeks ago, and then learned what genre it was, and I'm 100% on board with it. So if you're down there making comments about your Tone Top 10 list, is there any games you are excited for coming out this year? Now, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. It tells Big Brother YouTube to promote my work more and other works I've done. Speaking of my other works, if this is your first time seeing me, this is primarily a Let's Play channel, though I do also shine the spotlight on new releases from both big budget developers and indie developers. I upload one video a day, sometimes two if I have something important to talk about or highlight. If that's kind of your thing, consider subscribing as well. Thank you for watching, and let's see what else 2023 will have in store.